Hello again. In this tutorial we're going to go ahead and start a new project from scratch and cover all the steps that it takes to start a project all the way to building it for a device. So let's go ahead and click on New Project. And we're going to name our app Hello World. Hello World is a basic intro to programming that usually teaches you the simplest aspects, so we're going to go with Hello World. You can keep the presets as they are if they're on 320 by 480, and we want it to be upright. And go ahead and choose the project files folder for section 7 as the location for your folder. So you want program files as your folder. Don't click on the Hello World that's already there, we just want it right here. And go ahead and click create once you're ready. Alright, so this should open up and create a new folder named Hello World. And in this folder you're going to see a main.lua file, a large set of icons, and then a config file and a build file. These icons are all for the devices, so if you put it on a device, that icon will show up for it. Right now Corona has them all set up as its default image, so it should be something like that. So we're not going to worry about the icons quite yet. What I'd like you to do is go ahead and open your main.lua file in Sublime Text, and it should look something like this. So we're also going to look at config and build settings later, but for now we just want the main.lua file. So once you have this open, the first thing we're going to do is print Hello World to the console. Now in order to see that, we need the console to be open. If you're using a PC, there should be a black terminal that opens up with the program. That is your console, but we also have it here in Sublime Text if we activate it. So what we're going to do is go ahead and type print, parentheses, then quotations, Hello World. You should have something similar to that. And then from Corona Editor, let's go ahead and go to Run Project. Now when you run project, this will automatically open the console below. And you will see here in your console, this is the basic information of running your application. So it should say something like this. You should have a Hello World on the bottom. That is whatever we print to screen. So if we change this to Hello World again and save, it will rerun, and we'll see it says Hello World again. So this is your basic console. It's very helpful for debugging and working with issues. And this print statement, which only goes to the console, is very useful for finding solutions to problems. So a quick example, if we had a variable and we told it equaled 10, and then we printed variable, and then we changed variable to 20, and then print variable once again, what we're going to see now is it's going to print variable twice in two different states. So we get Hello World again, we get variable at 10, and then variable at 20. So that is what we got there on screen. So this is very useful for just finding out information about your variables, your strings, and all sorts of other elements of Corona while you're using it. So now that we have our basic print to the console, we're going to go ahead and print to the screen now. So we're going to have Hello World show up here on the screen. So what I'd like for you to do is go ahead and type display dot new text, and you should get something similar to this. Now in this options section, we're going to go ahead and say text is Hello World, then a comma, and now we need to give it its x and y location. So I'm going to do x is 100, y is 100. So it's display new text, standard brackets, then curly brackets, text is Hello World, x is 100, y is 100, and you want commas there. So if you save this and it reruns, you should get a nice little Hello World on your screen. So this is the basic Hello World. Now we're going to go ahead and try to break it just to see what happens. So I want you to go ahead and take the text and delete it. So it just says x is 100, comma, y is 100. Now if we save this, we're actually going to receive an error, and Corona is going to pop up to warn us. So we get this error in a pop-up in Corona that shows us the problem that we're having. And we'll also see that here in the terminal, we also get the same issue. So this terminal in Sublime shows you as well as in Corona itself. If you want to turn off the option in Corona, you can do so in the preferences, so it only shows up here. Alright, so let's go ahead and put that text back, and we should get back to having a nice happy app with Hello World. So the screen's a little empty right now, so let's go ahead and add some display objects. So I want you to go ahead and type display.newCircle. Now, if you autocomplete it, it gives you x center, y center, and radius. What we want is 3 numbers, the first one representing its x center, so let's do 300. Then the y center, we'll put 200, and then the radius of the circle. So now we'll get a nice white circle over on the side of our screen. Now our screen right now is 320 by 480, and we'll go into how to change that later. So now that we have a circle on here, let's go ahead and add an image as well. So I'm going to use the sample image from our earlier examples. So I'm going to go ahead and take that one and bring it over. But you can take any image you want, anything you might have on your computer, on the internet, and you want to put it in this Hello World folder. So go ahead and put your image into the folder, and you need to make sure that you have the name written down properly. So I'm going to have it over here. So we're going to do display.newImage, and as long as you have the file name correct, this should show up no problem. So you're going to put the name of the image. Now you need the file type as well, so mine's a .png, so you need to make sure you have that as well. It is capital sensitive, so you need to make sure your capitalization is correct. Then we're going to give it its x and y location. So I'm going to say 200 and 200. So now once I save this, I have my nice big image. Now this image is way too big for our screen, and I'll show you how to change that in a moment. So we have a nice big image showing up, and as long as this represents the name of your image, you should have the same. Now I'm going to go ahead and make mine smaller, and the easiest way for me to do that is to name this image. So I'm going to name it image equals display.newImage. So now, instead of just displaying an image, we've actually given it a name, and we can use that to make changes. So I'm going to say image.xScale, which is the scale of it by its x orientation. I'm going to put that down to 0.2, so 20%. And then I'm going to do the same for its y scale. So now we should have a nice reasonable size image. Move it over so it's closer to the center of the screen, changing that x value. So there we go. So now we have an image on the screen as well. So now that we have an image, let's go ahead and add a rectangle. So we're going to name this rectangle as well. Display.newRect. And now we have to give it its left, top, width, and height. So left is the left side of it, so we'll say 100. Then for top, you want to go with whatever you want the top to be, so I'm going to say 400. Then the width, I'm going to make it 200 wide, and I'm going to make it 100 long. So now I'll have a rectangle at the bottom of the screen in a shape. So because we named this rectangle, we can make changes to it later. So I'm going to go ahead and move its x location by putting rectangle.x equals 300. So now, instead of it being on the left, it'll be on the right. See? Now we're going to go ahead and put this rectangle behind the text. Now there's going to be two problems. First off, this rectangle is the same color as the text. So if we put this here, we won't see the text anymore. So let's go ahead and change the color of the rectangle. So the way we do that is rectangle set fill color. Oops. and then we put in the color. So I'm going to put in a dark gray. Now if you remember from the earlier tutorial, this is red, green, and blue, and it works from numbers from 0 to 1, with decimals being the percentage. So this would be a dark gray color. Alright. So now, if we were to move the rectangles X and Y to be on top of the text, we'll see that it is, in fact, on top of the text, blocking it from view. You see. And we really don't want that. We want the rectangle to be behind it. So we're going to have to put the draw order differently. Now, there's an easy way to do this, which is simply start the rectangle before the text. So if we put the rectangle before the text, it'll then be behind the text, because things are drawn in the order in which they're made. But another way that we can do this, I'm going to show you through their API, is if we go to display, and then we can take our object and change its order. So object to back, as you see here. And we'll get into this API in a moment. So what we do is we can put the rectangle in the front, last thing to be drawn, or last thing to be made, first thing to be drawn, and we can say rectangle to back. And this will put it in the back of the order of things being drawn. So this way it can be the last thing that we wrote, but it'll still be behind everything else. Another way we could do this is if we name the text, so if we say text equals, we can tell the text to go to the front, and that will make it become in front of everything else. So that's a basic example of moving things around. Now we're going to go ahead and move the circle. So in order to move the circle, we need to name it. So go ahead and say circle equals. And we have a name for our circle. Now what we're going to do is make the circle move. So to do that, we need to use a transition. We'll cover these in detail later, but for now I just want you to write transition.to. And then we're going to say the target is circle. And for the parameters, we need curly brackets. And we're going to say x equals 50, y equals 50. And what this is going to do is make the circle transition from its current location to this location. So once we save, we'll see the circle moving across the screen. Now, you'll notice that happened very quickly, almost too quick to notice. So we're going to slow that down by giving it a time variable of 2000. Now this number is in milliseconds, so it's going to be 2 seconds it's going to take to move. So go ahead and try that one more time. Now we see, yet again, it's behind the rectangle because it was created before. So let's tell the circle to go to the front. Now we have our circle in front. Oh, I'm sorry. If we tell the circle to go in front, we have to tell it after these are created. There we go. So now the circle's in front of the rectangle. Alrighty, so now we have a circle, an image, rectangle, and text. So next we're going to go ahead and take a look at the config files. So in your folder, in the Hello World folder, go ahead and open your config.lua in Sublime Text, and you will see something similar to this. This is the default config file it made for us when we told it to make a new project. The config file is used for setting your sizes, setting the suffixes for various image sizes, telling it whether you do notifications. There's a whole lot of things you can do with the config file. There's a link included in the Hello World folder that covers the config file information, and this link will take you to a page on Corona's website that covers in detail the various elements of the config file. So this shows you some of the things that you can add and what they mean. And we'll go through a little bit of this in detail later, But for now, what I'd like you to do is change your width to 640, your height to 960. Now this is the default iPad or iPhone Retina, so it's the iPhone screen times 2. And save this. And now you'll see all of our stuff is only in this corner because the screen is now twice the length in both ways. So now that that's the case, I'm going to make my image larger just to show you. It can now take up far more space. And we also can now move into space that we didn't have before because the screen is twice as large. Now, what we're using right now is a letterbox formation. You see here the letterbox is the scaling type, which means it's going to be adding black bars to the sides. And we can't see that right now because the whole screen is black. So we're going to go ahead and look through the API and find the setup to change the background color. So if you go to API, see display, and we're going to do set default, and what we want to do is set the default background. So this will set background color for the back. So in our main file we're going to do display dot set default background, and then we're going to make the background be an off-white. Oops, sorry. So now you see here, nice pretty background. Now let's take a look at this in some other screen sizes. So you'll notice now some of our objects are being clipped, and that's because they're being drawn off the screen. And this is due to the letterboxing. So let's go ahead and change this to zoom even. And what zoom even does is it makes sure everything always fits on the screen exactly to this width and height. Alright. So now that we've taken a look at the config file and some of the things we can do with it, we're going to go ahead and look at the build settings. So go ahead and open your build.settings file in Sublime. And this file is for a whole variety of settings for when you actually build to the device. So if you have Facebook integration, it can set, you put your Facebook ID. If you have, whether you want the status bar, the little line up top in iOS devices to be there, a lot of the things for when pushing to a device are in your build.settings. We have a majority of that information in the build settings information file in your project files. So if you open that up, you'll see a Corona page showing the various elements that you can have in your build settings. So that just about covers our Hello World. In the next stitch, we're going to go over some of these resources and what you can do with the resources on their website.